السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. آمين يا رب العالمين. Now, as you know, yes, we skipped one day, but there's a combination between Juz 15 and Juz 16, hence we put them together. Now, when we finish talking about that, Al-Akwanu tad'u ila al-Iman, the universe calls towards Iman and towards faith, and every single sign that we have on this earth and everything that you can see, they are all facilitated for mankind to do what? To be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just to realize the fact that they have to be close, but even have the facility and the ability to worship Allah with ease. You look at the sky and the heavens, they're all created for man because it rains so crops can grow. You look at the earth, it's where we are able to build our homes and literally have a roof on our heads. You look at the gardens and the farms that we have, we harvest from them, we grow food from there, and we get to survive on this earth. You look at the animals, cattle, like cows. You look at cows. Through the blood and also the mucus and the flesh and everything that you see within the body with urine, Allah extracts from there by separating the most pure of drinks one can nourish themselves with, and that is milk. And from the bee, as it being a type of insect, Allah provides us with what? With honey. Now imagine, these are all examples. And then what did we say? وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. أَلَيْسَ كَذَلِكَ? Allah extracted you and took you out of the stomachs and the wombs of your mother, whereas you did not have any idea of anything. On top of that, what you realize is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He do? He teaches us that this earth, as how we live it, you look at Allah saying, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ, He provided you a hearing. He provided you al-absara, and those are the eyes, a sight. وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ, and a heart. The combination between this and that of the next juz, which we are looking into, and then following juz after that, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making it very clear, the fact that in Surah Al-Isra, Allah says, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. That took me by surprise. The moment I paid attention, contemplated into the verses, and understood that there's a theme here, that which is quite encompassing of the entire juz or maybe the entire surah, combined with Surah Al-Kahf, I ended up realizing that there's a grand image and vision that we have to have also maintain in our minds in order to understand the Quran. And one of the ways to understand the Quran is to look at the thematic overview of every single surah, or juz by juz, or maybe, as I said, chapter by chapter. Those are one of the ways. But one thing that you have to realize, every surah is a world of its own. It's an entity of its own. Even though you might find that perhaps maybe you might find in Juz Amma, the surah, majority of all surahs of Juz Amma, they are what? They are Makki surahs. Now if you look at Isra and you look at basically surah that relate to Tawheed, Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah Makkiyah. أليس كذلك? These are surah to be Makkiyah, Meccan surahs. But then each one of them have a theme, which is not similar to the next one. If you look at the theme that you will receive from Surah Al-Isra, it will be quite different from that which you receive from Surah Al-Kahf. And Surah Al-Kahf, its theme, it will be very different from that of Surah Maryam. Although each one of them call towards Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, the proving and evidence of the existence of prophets, and on top of that, refutation against the non-believers, and many other things that come to cover related to the Meccan period. Like if you look at Surah Al-Isra, what it has in common compared to Surah Al-Nahl is when Allah said about Allah providing us eyesight and also a hearing ability and having a heart. The thing that fascinated the most is that why didn't Allah talk about the mind? Why didn't Allah talk about the body, all of it, all of the other faculties? There was a message out of that, and there was a lesson out of that. We only receive knowledge through the following entities that Allah has built and created within us. Number one, That is the hearing. We listen to our mashayikh, to our teachers. We learn with the ears. Number two, we learn with the eyes by looking into the books, reading through. And when we speak, we don't, Allah did not mention the tongue and the mouth because that's how you learn. La la la. That's not how we learn. This is how we learn. When you speak, you hear your voice. And by hearing your voice, the mind masters. And by seeing with the eyes, the mind records at the same time. Lakin the heart is the one that literally maintains, it's the vessel that maintains the knowledge. How so? If this heart is not pure, Allah will not provide mankind knowledge. If the heart is pure, Allah opens up that knowledge for them and allows it to penetrate in their system, in their body, until they become a living embodiment of the Sharia itself. That's the reality of knowledge. What about the mind though? What's the difference between the mind and the heart? Why when the believers are mentioned, Allah will say, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Allah talks about the hearts rather than the intellect, because this entity here is not for the purpose of maintaining the knowledge, but it's just a database that records. It only records and it restructures itself by keeping, restoring information and ensuring that that information is kept in a very good position. There's terabytes in this mind. We carry terabytes of ability to carry information. This mind is a database of its own. But does a database have any type of emotion? No, it doesn't. If you don't command the database, would it be able to give you that which you want by storing certain data, certain files, arranging the files? Would it be able to? No. But what the heart does, the heart regulates the mind. One can be logic, but they will be commanded by their heart. One might understand that this is right or this is wrong, but the heart is the one that directs it towards the right or wrong. Hence Allah talked about the heart. The fluctuation of emotions are that which rides mankind towards whether the right destination or the wrong destination. We need to understand that this heart is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purified within Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allah didn't come to purify his mind, because the mind is just an entity or a computer that keeps and stores. Khalas. Like in the heart is the one that commands the restoration of information and the extraction of certain information, which brings forth the information. Which means when the heart is pure and emotionally attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will always command the mind to think about Allah, to think about remembrance, think about Quran, think about a hadith, think about goodness. The mind, the heart is the one that commands the mind. But far and beyond, the flip side of it is that if the heart indulges on this world so much, it wouldn't be able to achieve that which Allah wants us to achieve. Hence, our emotions are the ones that are going to be held accountable, and Allah will ask us, how did we deal with a certain issue? The Sharia tells us, لا تغضب. مثلا, I'll give you a simple example. Now each one of us know in our minds clearly, لا تغضب, don't be angry. Don't be angry. فردد مرارا, لا تغضب, don't be angry. Because anger literally leads you to your doom. Anger leads you to you being destroyed. Anger leads you to failure. We all understand that. Lakin, when you know that your mind has logically understood, I should not be angry, would that anger be led by the mind or would it be led by the heart? It would be led by the heart, because the heart is the one that carries the emotions. Now, how you restrain your heart to not act in accordance to how your emotions are, but then you control your heart to act logically and rationally, you end up realizing that the heart is the one that controlled the mind to act properly. It's not about the information you keep, it's about how you maintain and put that information into practice through your emotions. Sometimes, majority of us in this life, what happens? And you find that this person is a well-learned person. Their own family members come and literally they criticize him or criticize her by their deen, by their covering. And then they look at them, why are you covering so much? Why are you doing this so much? Why are you giving out in charity a lot? Why are you doing a lot of ibadah? Failing to realize that they logically understand that yes, this is what they're supposed to do, but their emotions are the one that force them and push them towards doing even more than what they understand and fathom from their mind. أليس كذلك? But those who literally criticize them, they have a different view. Their emotions lead them toward that which is different. When a certain person, they command you to do something very different, it's not because the mind understands, it's because emotionally that's what they understand. They are emotionally attached towards something, and they literally justify it being logic. That's the honest truth. Emotions govern the logic. We need to understand that. If once you understand that our emotions are that which govern that which is in the mind, you end up realizing we need to control this in order to control this. If this vessel is not pure in itself, then this one will be corrupt as well. But when the heart is pure, this one would be pure in itself to extract that which is necessary of the information that it has received. When the ears were mentioned and the sight were mentioned, these were the two entities that literally make one receive knowledge. And what does knowledge do to mankind? If you look at Surah Al-Isra and Surah Al-Kahf, what they normally do is about ennobling mankind. What is ennobling? Ennobling is gratifying mankind, also raising the rank of mankind, honoring mankind to a level where it is not similar to any other type of creation on this earth. Angels, they are held to on a high rank because they are لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. They are infallible, they never make mistakes, and when they are commanded, they fulfill the commands. Lakin Allah brought to us as well from the humankind prophets. And you notice from those prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored them with the revelation which He sent to them. What struck me the most is when Surah Al-Isra was being recited and I was being led by my fellow Imam, he read verses such as وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, and they are asking you about the ruh. Now what Surah Al-Isra came to do, among the many things that it came to do, is answer back to the questions which the non-believers or the Jews had in regards to proving whether Rasulullah is a prophet or not. And one of them is asking about the soul. Only a prophet will be able to answer back to that question, and Allah gave him a beautiful response. Tell them, الروح من أمر ربي. The matter of the soul is a matter related to my Lord, no one else. Allah will never reveal that to anyone else. It's knowledge concealed and kept as a secret between Allah and Himself. But we cannot have access to that. Today, scientists, they fight as much as they could, trying to do the best of research they can do to understand how the human body works. But I can tell you, tomorrow when we pass away, we are but a body and nothing else. But when we are remembered, we are only remembered by the soul. The soul is what carries the name Ibrahim, the name Ali, the name Fatima, the name Ishaq, the name Maryam, the name Zainab. That's the soul. Like in the body is just a vessel which the soul is placed within it. That's what we need to understand. Because when we pass away, nobody's going to say, before we even enter the grave, bring Fulan so we can bury them. No. They're going to say, bring the body, it needs to be buried. That's how they're going to say it. Because the body is nothing but the soul itself which is within it. So we need to realize that is knowledge which Allah will not share with mankind. And Allah says, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And it was not brought forth to you, busy meaning all of us, from knowledge, from the knowledge that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen Himself, the knowledge that allow mankind to survive, to develop, to grow, to advance, and also draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that it's very little. What we have today is very little compared to the knowledge that which Allah has. I'll give you a simple challenge. For those who claim that we cannot prove anything without science, I want to tell you, far beyond this atmosphere, what else do you know? Regardless of all of the technology that you have, you've seen out there how great the world looks like, how the universe looks like. Would you say that it only exists by itself, or there is a greater force that is governing everything? Think of yourself. Now, what we believe as Muslims, especially us in our faith, we believe that between us and the heavens, there are entities of angels that live between us, that they have communication with Allah by doing their tasks. We can't see them, they can see us. They are the ones protecting us. لَهُ مُعَقِّبَاتٌ مِّن بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ يَحْفَظُونَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. They are protecting them from the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَيْسَ كَذَلِكَ? We believe that, and we believe everything happens in accordance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. That's what we need to realize. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, after saying, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, He tells Rasulullah, وَلَئِن شِئْنَا, and if we desire, this verse struck me so much. وَلَئِن شِئْنَا لَنَذْهَبَنَّ بِالَّذِي أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ. We would have done away and took away and went away with that which we revealed upon you. Revealed to you, literally. ثُمَّ لَا تَجِدُ لَكَ بِهِ عَلَيْنَا وَكِيلًا. Then you will never find from us to be your guardian. Meaning to say, even this knowledge which we've sent to you as inspiration and revelation, if we desired, we would have literally extracted it and took it away from your mind, and it wouldn't have existed to you at all. That wouldn't have been a part of your portion on this earth. Because remember, it's knowledge that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah created Adam knowing nothing, and then He honored Adam with knowledge. How does Allah honor us? Allah has not only put the universe to our service, but He has honored us with knowledge. We are a creation of Allah, that Allah has separated us from every single type of creation through knowledge. That is only if we understand. Ikhwatul kiram, knowledge is what makes mankind to elevate in status. We need to understand that very clearly. And nothing else. Knowledge is the one that sets the difference between you and I. But what type of knowledge though? What type of knowledge are we talking about? Now, before we even go to what type of knowledge, if you look at Surah Al-Kahf, now remember, as I said, we're just picking and choosing certain themes that we're going to look into, but from among the many themes that we are looking into at the moment is specifically knowledge. Surah Al-Kahf answers so many questions and so many things. And among the things that you find is the fact that you find the people of the Kahf, the men of the cave, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He decided to aid them. And then you have the people of the Jannatain, the two gardens. Now these people, each one of them took a side. And you notice that we mentioned about Allah mentioning the importance of picking a side and what side Allah chose Himself. Now He literally kind of concludes on that theme by saying that the people of the Kahf, they chose the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after understanding and having the knowledge, when they acquired the knowledge that there is nothing greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the people of Jannatain, they knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala existed, but on top of that, they decided to follow the emotions that led them to greed. And what did they say? وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً وَلَئِن رُدِدتُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. I don't even know that the hour will be established anyway. وَلَئِن رُدِدتُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي, and even if I am to be returned back to my Lord, لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا, I would find that which is far more greater than every one of this over here. Now you think about it, how much guts does the man have to literally say that much himself, to utter to that extent? Think about it. But what you realize is that each one of them had a different understanding of this world and worldly life. And the knowledge that they acquired and how they put it into practice is totally different. But one, in order to be able to succeed on this path, they require certain traits. And Al-Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayh, he mentions them and summarizes them to 6. And we're going to give examples of how they are relevant, especially to a student of knowledge. Number 1, Al-Imam Shafi'i say, Akhi, my dear brother, لَن تَنَالَ الْعِلْمَ إِلَّا بِسِتَّةٍ. You will never attain knowledge, nor would you be able to receive it, except if you have 6 traits. These are the 6 requirements of knowledge. سَأُنْبِيكَ عَنْ تَفْصِيلِهَا بِبَيَانِ. I will explain them to you very clearly. Number 1, you need dhaka. You need the intellect. Al-Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, صاحب فتح الباري, كتاب فتح الباري, this man, he wrote the Sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari in literally 20 volumes onwards. And when he finished doing the Sharh, you end up realizing the scholars did a feast. And when they did the feast, because it was a huge achievement, one of the greatest magnificent achievement of man at the time, which no one was able to achieve. Lakin Ibn Hajar, how was he? Dhaka means intellect. His mind was not able to consume, his database was not big enough and not expanded enough to attain and preserve the knowledge that was being taught to him. But the desire he had in his heart is when he was about to lose hope, he saw the impossible and realized that which I can see impossible, basically the impossible happening, then this which is regarded as impossible, meaning him acquiring knowledge, he can make it possible by not stopping. All of what he needs to do is be consistent every single day, and Allah will expand his mind. And Allah did exactly that. He made him to become the genius of his time. Ibn Hajar, his mind was so hard to attain knowledge to a level where even his teachers perhaps might have given up on him. But then when he saw a rope cutting through a piece of rock, he realized that if the rope can cut through a piece of rock, whereas a rope is very delicate and at the same time is softer compared to a rock, then that means anything is possible. All you need to do is cause friction every day. That friction which you bring into the mind ends up absorbing the information, and it allows the information to penetrate, and then it expands. For those who claim to say that Quran is hard, you cannot memorize it, it's not about the amount you memorize, it's about the consistency of memorizing. Those who want to attain knowledge, it's about the consistency that you do what? You attain knowledge. Because from among the many things that Al-Imam Shafi'i wa rahmatullahi alayhi mentioned is وَطُولُ زَمَانٍ, and that is you need time. That time allows you to have consistency. Time allows you to stretch it out so that you can constantly live in that mode. That's number two. Number three of what he mentioned is hirsun. Now hirs is putting some effort. Now effort is not for you to just sit down and read a book, and then even when it becomes extremely difficult, you end up realizing now it's getting hard, that's it, and I still have to put more effort. La 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 la. It is leaving your home, going to the mashayikh, meeting them, sitting down, attaining the knowledge, coming back home, open the books, do your own research, memorizing the knowledge, and searching from another mashayikh, every one of those possible, until now it becomes much easier for you to gather all of the information and make use of it. That is hirs. Ijtihad is different from hirs. Ijtihad is when you put effort to do something until you complete it. Like in hirs is you put effort, and on top of that you search for it. That's the meaning of hirs. That would be number three, but number four of what we have is istibarun. You need patience. You cannot achieve anything good without patience. I know really well sitting down to just repeat the same verses every now and then when it comes to reciting Quran is the most difficult thing to do. Yes, one doesn't want to just sit down and repeat the same thing. Or maybe you keep on every single day doing one thing every day. Let's say perhaps you have to memorize lines of poetry when it comes to adabu talib al-ilm, or maybe lines of poetry related to spirituality, or lines of poetry related to a certain subject, a certain fan, a certain specialization in your field that you want to study. What you realize is that every single day you have to constantly be revising, memorizing, memorizing, and it gets boring. I'll be very honest. يُصَابُ أَحَدٌ بِالْمَلَلِ. One might be struck by what? Tiresome, to be tired. And once they have tiredness and they've reached to a level where perhaps what we can say they are fatigued, it becomes quite dangerous. But in order for one not to fall into fatigueness, what do they do, or fatigue mode? What do? They always understand that there is a grand mission than this. So what I do is I have istibar, patience, constantly, patience. And Musa alayhi salam, when he, and this is Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf now is explaining to us the importance of knowledge. Musa alayhi salam, when he was with Khadr, and he wanted to receive knowledge, and he realized that there was a servant of Allah, that Allah has given him knowledge, that which he has not yet received. He was told, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا, because the servant knew Musa alayhi salam is a prophet, and when he sees exactly and witnessed what I'm doing, Musa is not going to remain silent. Musa is going to talk against it. Because when prophets see that which does not make sense to them, not to us, to them, they are not supposed to remain silent, especially when it looks like a munkar. What does it, munkar meaning? Something that which is unknown in the Sharia. So what do? They have to stop it, put an end to it. Musa alayhi salam, being the man he was told, you cannot really follow me because you're not going to be patient enough. He said, فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَنِي, he was told, yes, okay, if you're saying that you want, if you're saying that you're gonna bear patience, then فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَنِي, then if you follow me, فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ, don't ask me a single question. حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا, that which has happened, I'll remind you and I will explain it to you. So you just calm down. When they left, the first thing that Musa sees, he witnesses him destroying what? A ship. He's wondering, there's people in there, you want to destroy the ship, you make us all drown. Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. Because yes, it looks harmful, but there's a greater purpose behind it. Another one, he sees, next thing that he sees him, he witnesses him murdering a soul. Musa does not understand. Why would you murder a pure soul without another soul? Basically for no reason. And the next thing that he sees is that he becomes generous. He's generous in a place where he was rejected himself. Musa is questioning, why would you be generous in a town where you're literally rejected? And there is where he drew the line. What made him draw the line? Because of lack of patience from Musa alayhi salam. The impatience of Musa caused him to not receive more knowledge than that he would have received. You end up realizing that's when everything was explained to him. This happened because of this happened because of that, and this happened because of such and such reason. Musa then realized, okay, but does that make Musa to become weak, or Musa making a mistake? You find that in certain books or certain translations, they explain that Musa, I've always asked this question, can we say that Anbiya are fallible? I would personally tell you, على حسب العلماء التي قرأت منهم, you cannot say that Anbiya are fallible. The prophets are infallible. They do not make mistakes. Because if that's the case, إذ معجزاتهم كقوله وبر صدق هذا العبد في كل خبر. First of all, محال الكذب والمنهي كعدم التبليغ يا ذكي. You cannot say that Anbiya, they lied, they made mistakes. Because look at this, لو انتفى التبليغ وأوخان حتم. Let's say for example, one simple mistake. If they denied to deliver the message of Allah to the world, then what's going to happen? It is literally impossible to say that they cannot change the revelation, the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it doesn't make sense. If they're not going to deliver and they are literally going to keep it within themselves, then that means it's even possible for them to change things around. On top of that, if you say that they can lie, then that means if they lie, then they are making Allah to be a liar himself, wal-iyadhu billah, because they are a representation of Allah on this earth. If they are a representation of Allah on this earth, and if Allah is perfect, then how comes they have imperfection? Of course not. They are perfect within themselves. And Allah has purified them for them to be perfect. So you cannot claim that a prophet can be imperfect just like you and I, because Allah has separated them. But as a miracle, Allah sent man to be the one that will deliver the message on this earth. Because Allah says, if we were to send an angel, we would have done away with each one of those who are literally questioning in regards to whom? Having an angel instead of what? A human being, to be the one to deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember, it's a mercy of Allah. For those who will believe, they will know that I can do it as well. For those who do not believe, they will even become the ones that go totally astray, even more than the way they are. And it's exactly what happened. There were two categories of people, the non-believers in Mecca and the believers in Mecca. And the believers in Mecca, they embraced the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The non-believers, they shunned the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So was Musa at fault? No. Musa was acting according to him as a prophet. If he sees something, as I said, as a munkar, that which is unknown according to the Sharia, that which one is not supposed to do, he would question it. Did he take action? No, he did not. But he questioned, why would you do this? Because it didn't make sense to him. Although there was a purpose behind it, that which Musa alayhi salam did not understand. Now, Khandar having certain information which Musa alayhi salam did not have a hold of, does that make Khadr to be more knowledgeable than Musa? Bear in mind, Anbiya, they are more knowledgeable than anyone on this earth. That's the fact. The prophets have knowledge that which mankind generally do not have, because they have knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would anyone be able to beat that? Of course not. We cannot say so. Lakin, coming back to our point, Musa alayhi salam, lack of patience, what happened is the fact that he wasn't able to receive more. So when we are not patient and we're not going to literally bend our knees down, sit with the mashayikh hours on end, and perhaps sometimes you might even fall ill because of searching knowledge, when you're not patient, you're going to miss all of that. How many points are those? 4. We said daka'un, hirsun, and we said istibarun, which is patience. And then we mentioned tulu zaman, alaysa kadhalik, you need time, you need life. But then there are 2 things that we need as well. One of them is bulgha. Bulgha meaning you need food, provision. Now when we say provision, in today's day and age, majority of the students that we have, subhanallah, yes, I understand we have electricity, we have fans, we have ACs, depending on where we are. We have facilities that allow us, like cars and all of these other technological advancement products that are out there, which allow us, like Zoom, YouTube, and all of those online sessions. Yes, alhamdulillah. Lakin, with all of that advancement, Allah has made knowledge to have less barakah. Hence, people don't see the barakah in knowledge anymore. They see the barakah in that which makes their life to become much easier. This worldly life, which is building more of this worldly life. That's what makes people indulge into this world more than even indulging in preparing for the hereafter. And one of the best ways to prepare in the hereafter is attaining knowledge and using that knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this can be any knowledge. For example, you can be an engineer, you can be maybe a school teacher, but as long as you are literally using this knowledge for the sake of Allah, by serving the message of Islam, and you living as an embodiment of the Quran itself as much as you could, you are already doing the service which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So let's not have this narrow understanding that knowledge, when we mention knowledge, we mention that it's only knowledge of the Sharia. La 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 la. But we talk about every type of knowledge which you can utilize that knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the battles, women were nurses. أليس كذلك? They were the ones that would take care of the wounds. Men that were injured, they would take care of them. Some men, they were doctors themselves. Imagine that. And they were there to serve the men and even serve the women. So if we don't have a tabib that is a Muslim, we don't have an engineer that is a Muslim, we don't have maybe a teacher that is a Muslim, then whom are we leaving the generations to? Whose hands are we leaving our children to? Imagine all of that. So every single knowledge, as long as you can channel it towards Allah, they are all necessary. Imagine that. It's very important. Lakin when we finish with that element, there's something which we have to come back to, which is bulgha, and that is provision. The students of knowledge, they cannot really seek knowledge as much as they could. Reason being is because life becomes tough for them. They don't have, yes, we have all of these facilities as I mentioned, but the problem is that there are so many bills to be paid, there are so many expenses that are required. One cannot live, you have to pay council tax, you have to pay rent, which is skyrocketing, especially in London. And on top of that, things in grocery stores, they are getting even more expensive. Perhaps you have a car, you have to pay insurance, you have to pay other bills that which, if you look at them, they are unnecessary, but you still have to pay for them. Now imagine looking at the structuring of the world today, you end up realizing that it doesn't mean that because we have everything easy enough to utilize for knowledge, then we have it easy. La la la. But one needs to secure their income. That's what it is. If you have something that comes in every single month, which allows you to pay your bills, attain your food, and put food on the table for your family, maybe, alhamdulillah. You don't need more than that. Because remember, we are in a journey which literally one day is going to come to an end. If you know that there is a way that you can attain more wealth, and you know that that wealth is halal, and it's not going to distract you from your knowledge, then do so. Because remember, even leaving behind a legacy is a barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a blessing indeed. So that those who come after you from your own progeny, from your own generations, your own children, and from your own lineage, they will be able to enjoy that you leave behind, and you can literally nurture a group of children that are knowledge seekers, any type of knowledge that they want to seek. And through that knowledge, they can serve Islam. But if they have the wealth, they can easily serve Islam without worrying about what? About food, about bills, about payments, and all of those other type of necessities that they need. Now, that's point number 5. Number 6, you need suhbatu ustad. You need to befriend your sheikh, your alim. That sheikh has to be a sheikh Rabbani, a teacher that is literally connected to your Lord. Hence, I would advise, I'm not having a go on anyone. Look, there's nothing wrong in seeking knowledge from people that don't share the same faith as you. But if you know that you have an alternative, a person that is an expert in their field and they share the same faith as you, lakin they have good morals at the same time, basically I will use these words, they're not sick in the head, basically. They don't present themselves as Muslims, but then they hold liberal ideas. If you have a person like that, then I would tell you avoid that person. You don't want to sit with a person like that. But if you know that you have a person that is decent, and even if a person is not in the same faith as you, but their etiquettes are very good, and that person would not take you away from your belief system, from your culture, and you as a person of faith, then I would advise you take knowledge from those type of people. But it depends on what knowledge. Lakin, after finishing off this juz and mentioning that these are the 6 requirements of knowledge, you end up realizing that the next juz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about something very magnificent. And what is it? In Surah Maryam and Surah Taha, Allah mentions prophets, nearly a lot of them. And I wouldn't mention all of them, but many of them. One of them is Yahya. Second of them is Zakaria. Third of them is Musa. Another one is Ismail. And all of the other ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to mention. But then Allah mentions Musa again in Surah Taha. And then Allah mentions to us about revelation, that which He sent upon Isa alayhi salam, revelation that He sent upon Ibrahim alayhi salam, when He said to Isa alayhi salam, "Atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya." Allah has brought to me the book, that is revelation, and that is the book which was what? So-called Bible. And then you end up realizing Allah has given knowledge to Ibrahim, such as what knowledge? Knowledge of inni qad ja'ani min al-ilmi ma lam ya'tik, knowledge that has not yet reached his own father. فَاتَّبِعْنِي أَهْدِكَ صِرَاطًا سَوِيًّا. So follow me, I will guide you to the straight path, to the right path, that which is the correct path. Now beyond that, you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions whom? Musa alayhi salam. Now with Musa alayhi salam, he starts talking about what? ثُمَّ جِئْتَ عَلَى قَدَرٍ يَا Musa. Oh Musa, you came at the right appointed time. Why would Allah say that? Because He literally summarizes in one verse, إِذْ تَمْشِي. Consider this and pay attention, Ya Musa. إِذْ تَمْشِي أُخْتُكَ, your sister, while she was walking, فَتَقُولُ, and she's saying to the family of the Pharaoh, هَلْ أَدُلُّكُمْ عَلَى مَنْ يَكْفُلُهُ, the one who can be a guardian to this child. Remember, at a time, you were born at a time where boys were murdered, slaughtered alive, because it was said and claimed that there will come a prophet that would take away the kingdom of the Pharaoh. أَلَيْسَ كَذَلِكَ? Now, remember this. When you were thrown on a river, and on that river Nile, the next thing that happens is that the Pharaoh himself, his family, are the one that collect you. You are supposed to be what? Slaughtered. But Allah does what? Allah sends your own sister in the same family, that which the family of the devils, to do what? To save you from that torment, so that you can be returned back to your mother. فَرَجَعْنَاكَ إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ, and we returned you back to your mother. كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ, so her eyes can attain tranquility and never live with sadness. وَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا, and then later on you murdered a soul. فَنَجَّيْنَاكَ مِنَ الْغَمِّ, and then we saved you from problems, from trouble, that which literally was troubling you inside you emotionally. وَفَتَنَّاكَ فُتُونًا, and then we tested you severely at the same time. فَلَبِثْتَ سِنِينَ فِي أَهْلِ مَدْيَنَ, and you lived for years with the people of Madian. ثُمَّ جِئْتَ عَلَى قَدَرٍ يَا مُوسَى, then you came at the right appointed time, O Musa. Do you think everything that happened was by chance? Of course not, it wasn't by chance. Everything happens in accordance to my planning, O Musa. So when we were doing all of that, you might look at it as evil, but that's exactly what was not happening. Nothing evil. In fact, we were preparing you for this. Now, as you've come to us now and you came to speak to me, I want you to go to the Pharaoh and guide him. What is it that we learn from each one of these stories and all the other prophets? For example, like Yahya was told, Ya Yahya, khudil kitaba biquwwah. Oh Yahya, take the book with strength. What do you learn from that? The most important message that you learn is that the knowledge that each one of us need, regardless of any other knowledge that we acquire, the first and foremost knowledge that a Muslim needs to attain is the knowledge of understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we understand Allah? Every single prophet that was sent, they were sent and they went through adversities, difficulties, turmoil, issues, problems. And some of them suffered from the hands of their own people, their own family members, people of their own same kin, same blood, one lineage. And like Musa alayhi salam, he suffered from the people that literally took care of him, the family of the Pharaoh. And the next thing that happens is that as he goes back to the Pharaoh still decides to mock him. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us something. Even though you receive mockery of Musa, Ya Muhammad, even alayhim as-salatu was-salam, even though you're receiving all of these negativities, they're not negative. In fact, there's a silver lining between all of those dark clouds, because that which I know is not what you know. The knowledge that I have is not the knowledge that you have. So what's the knowledge that we have to have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's the knowledge of submission. Nothing else. We have to submit to Allah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do something, it's not upon us to question why. What's the wisdom behind it? Maryam alayhi salam, when she was approached by Jibreel alayhi salam, what did she say? قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن. I seek refuge indeed from Rahman, the most merciful, mink, so that you can escape me in kunta taqiyya. If you are literally conscious enough of God, then stay away from me. I seek refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against you. And he doesn't even know who that man is. What does Jibreel tell her? إنما أنا رسول ربك. In fact, I am a messenger from your master. لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. So that I can bear the glad tidings of a gift. And what is that? A pure child. Now she was questioning, how am I going to have a child and a man has not even touched me? أَنَّا يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ. No man has ever touched me. Like no mankind, no human being has ever touched me before. وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. I'm not even of those that have transgressed yet. Because baghi is not, we can't say a prostitute, but one that has transgressed. Basically, even if they've literally engaged in intimacy once in their lifetime, basically illegally, unlawfully, that can cause them to fall what? Pregnant. But she's saying, I'm not even of those that have transgressed. No one has touched me. I haven't even crossed the boundaries yet ever in my life. Jibreel alayhi salam tells her, كذلك, just like that. ربك هو علي هين ولنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا, so that it can be a sign to people and a mercy from us. How is it a mercy, whereas Maryam alayhi salam is going to be accused, cursed and shunned, expelled from her own people, frowned upon, looked down upon, and also belittled by her own people? But as long as Allah has a purpose, which you and I don't understand, we have to understand Allah and submit to Him. The moment we agree to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of what we are supposed to do, if Allah wants us to do something, we have to abide. We have to do it. We don't question it. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those people. Ikhwatul kiram, what you need to bear in mind is the fact that the best of knowledge one can attain is the knowledge that draws you close to Allah. Spiritual knowledge. Knowledge that when you know that Allah wants you to do something, you don't question it. You just act upon it. You fulfill the deed. And on top of that, you know that Allah comes first before anything. Even though that which looks evil in front of you might look evil, but as long as you know you're doing it for Allah, always maintain the fact that it's for Allah and nothing else. Because once we understand Allah's respect, Allah's position to us, and Allah's prioritization in our lives, we will always and forever have the etiquette and the morals to behave with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us a people of understanding and a people that literally, when we read the Quran, we will be able to explore it and take from it all of those little gems that we take from there. But the thematic overview that you end up realizing in this juz 16 and juz 15, even though juz 15 talked about how mankind was honored with knowledge, but juz 16 explains to us what type of knowledge? The knowledge that draws you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To conclude, Dhul Qarnayn, he was a knowledgeable man, but with strength. The strength that he had and the knowledge that he had is the one that he used to help mankind against Ya'juj and Ma'juj, against Gog and Magog, and he built an entire wall against them. Imagine that. That was a shield placed against those of Gog and Magog that caused corruption from the others that were on the other side. Now, when Dhul Qarnayn did that, he used his knowledge for the sake of Allah. And the knowledge that he attained, as long as he used it for Allah, imagine that. You end up realizing anything that draws you close to Allah, and you know that that knowledge is for the sake of Allah, is the best of knowledge that you can always work for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.